Yeah, it's dangerous, right? So the doshas, because we don't have 15 hours to explain the metaphysics of Ayurveda, the doshas are, for all intents and purposes, biological functions that a sentient being has built into their system.
Okay.
So, for example, vata, the vata dosha in Ayurveda, is common to all sentient creatures. All sentient creatures have a vata dosha. And that's the profile of their physiology that deals with how to regulate pressure throughout the system.
Okay.
So, in a human, your heartbeat and your heart rate is the primary source of how the body regulates internal pressure systems.
Yeah.
So are the lungs, diaphragm, things like that. And then that has an effect on how the body operates.
Okay.
So, like when the body changes the breath rate or the heart rate, the entire blood pressure
Mm.
changes, which then informs the body to behave certain ways. So if we get stressed, or if we look outside and we see a tiger, then
Okay.
automatically the heart rate jumps, the
Yeah.
breath rate jumps, our
And it
blood
tells the body to get ready to go.
right, the blood pressure jumps so that we have this intensified state to get away from the tiger or fight the tiger or whatever we got to do. So that's vata dosha, deals with
Okay.
that whole regulatory system. The pitta dosha deals with the part of our physiology that works as a metabolic force. So transforming one thing into another, breaking down food, um, basically all the acids, hormones, things like that in our body that
Okay.
are transformative.
Okay.
And then the kapha dosha deals with the actual building of structure in our system. So how cells stack on top of each other,
Oh, okay.
regeneration, growth, anything that involves that is our body's inherent knowledge of how to do that for itself. And so those doshas adapt to different environments, internal and
Mm.
external. And because they can adapt, we get a range of flexibility of how we can thrive in different environments. But that same adaptation gives them the potential to fall out of balance. They fall out of balance too far away from our natural balance point, and we get sick.
Balance is definitely a word that goes right along with all of this, isn't it? That's kind of what we're striving for.
Yes, balance, but a very particular kind of balance. Balance is a very broad, vague word. It's like I need to find balance, you know.
Yeah.
No, balance actually, in a physiological sense, is based on the dosha's harmony with a person's what's called their prakruti,
Okay.
and that's their inherent constitution that's actually set at the time of their birth. Sorry, their conception.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we're trying to get in balance with that blueprint that's built into our code, our inherent code.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
I want to draw back to the dosha quiz because is there a wouldn't the way you explained it to me that sounds like that there we all have all three. How are you finding out which one you are or which one you have, or is that just absolute nonsense?
No, no, everyone has it's like a recipe. We all have a unique distribution of how the doshas function and create who we are.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
like a recipe or a fingerprint, but it's extremely nuanced and sophisticated. So with
Mm.
broad strokes, we could say, yeah, you're pitta dominant, like you're pitta
Oh,
dominant.
okay.
Right. I can tell just by looking at you. But I've
Me?
spent yeah, you.
What?
Um, yeah. But I've spent 15 years training that ability.
Wow.
Right. So if, for example, you had a whole bunch of imbalances in your system, you
Hmm.
would feel a certain way, you would think a certain way, you would notice certain things about your physical form, your attitudes, your so on
Yeah.
and so forth. If you take a dosha quiz, they just say, do you tend to get anxious? Yes. Then, you answer a bunch of questions like that. It's going to say, oh, you're vata dominant. But
Okay.
that's
Okay.
not true. That's actually your imbalance. The
Yeah.
last thing you
Yeah.
want to do is identify with that. Um, so, anyways, yeah,
That makes a
don't
lot of
don't
sense.
don't take online dosha quizzes.
That's our takeaway from the first part of
Yeah.
this interview. Now, I would like to know how could I integrate any typical Ayurvedic treatments into my day-to-day life? Is it for the treatment of illness alone, or is it a daily practice that you can continue for wellness every day?
Great question. It's both. So
Okay.
Ayurveda describes in great detail what to do to maintain health and also what to do to restore health if it's lost.
Okay.
And there are, I mean, we can spend as much time as you want on this. There are hundreds of suggestions for both. Um, but yes, the objective is to maintain health and not get sick.
Hmm.
But not just that, it's to experience a level of vitality. Like literally, it's like, health is not just about, yeah, I feel okay. Nothing's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about trying to
Ayurveda,
thrive.
exactly. It's about like feeling great, like
Yeah.
feeling vital, feeling full of energy and feeling full of strength and all that. That's the goal for Ayurveda.
Hmm.
Not just, yeah, there's nothing wrong today.
So I'll do nothing.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Exactly. Right. So yeah, that's the idea.
So what are some practices that people would do daily if they were using Ayurveda?
So that's called dinacharya, means daily routine. And
Okay.
there's, it's going to be different for everybody, but there's kind of like a archetype, if you will.
Okay.
Okay. So, circadian rhythm's very important for our
Yes.
long-term health. So you got to wake up at the right time. Ayurveda says that time is roughly 48 minutes before sunrise. Now,
Okay.
that depends. If you live in the North Pole, South Pole, don't do that because, right. So, but,
I think
so
my
wake
kids
up.
definitely got that memo.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you want to eat at the right times. Basically, you're eating 2 to 3 meals a day, no more.
Hmm.
You're going to eat at the right time. So, if you're eating a breakfast, then it's going to be around 8. Lunch is going to be between 12 and 1, and dinner is going to be between 5 and 6. And there are reasons for all that. That's not just some person saying that because that's what they like to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because of the circuit. It's because of our bodies are actually naturally geared towards the sun and moon cycle.
Yes.
We like to forget, but we are part of nature. And
100%. Yeah.
right. And so, there actually is no such thing as a night owl. Um, there are people who like to stay up late.
And they're actual
And
owls, but that's it.
right, and yeah, that's it. And that's fine. I'm not saying that they're doomed to poor health, but it's one factor that they've trained their body into for a variety of reasons. That's actually not the natural cycle for the human
Mhm.
body.
Yeah.
We're not nocturnal. We don't
No.
do well that way. It messes with our nervous system and digestive system in the end. So that's one thing, following your circadian rhythm. The next thing could be eating the right foods based on your present moment situation, imbalances, and your prakriti, your base constitution.
Okay.
And that's going to be wildly different for every
For
person.
everybody. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine.
But of course, you don't want to go eat a bunch of donuts. And I mean,
Yeah, there are some common
yeah.
advice that everybody can take on that one, but I can imagine how it could be tailored to
Yes.
everybody's specific needs, like where they were born almost. It comes from the start.
Absolutely right. So satmia is a concept in Ayurveda, which is the a person's genetic or ancestral history with certain cuisines and certain environments.
Mm,
Their bodies are adapted to operate best in those environments.
yeah.
So that's a factor of health, of course. Um, and what else? So then there's stress levels, when to get your exercise. So
Is there an
typically,
ideal time to get your exercise?
definitely,
Wow, I'd never heard
yeah,
that before.
yeah, definitely in the morning before eating.
Oh, so like a fasted workout is that what they call it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Ayurveda doesn't, but yes, works just as well. And it doesn't need to be. We're not talking like extreme CrossFit, max out,
Mm,
right? But then the exercise is going to be based on the age of the person, what they're capable of, what they need, all that kind of stuff gets tailored. But you want to do it at that time. Really, you can do it at the end of the day, but you definitely don't want to do it right after eating. That's really
fair enough.
bad
Yeah.
for health, right? So because that takes resources away from the digestive system, and then you end up
Oh.
developing higher levels of toxicity, and that creates problems. so on and
That's
so forth.
interesting. I hadn't thought
Yeah,
about it like that. Had
sure.
almost looked at it as like you got to fuel the workout. But I like when you think about it, you are
No,
like your digestive system is in full swing, and then you're making the
right,
body go and do like it have such an output. That does make a lot of
right.
sense.
Yeah, and if a relatively healthy person has plenty of fuel to fuel a workout without needing to have just eaten.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So there's that. There's meditative practices. There's breathing practices are a big deal because they regulate the autonomic nervous system,
Hmm.
uh, so on and so forth.
Breathing
Relate,
practices, I
yeah.
feel, are so popular nowadays. There was a new book called Breath that my husband's reading, and he loves it. He does the Wim Hof breathing. I don't know if that's in any
Mhm.
way related, but breathing practices, is that the same? Like the deep breath and hold it, or what? Do they differ a little bit in your practice?
There are literally thousands of breathing practices. So it depends on, again, what you need at the moment.
Mm,
There are fast breaths that use the navel point a lot. There are slow breaths. There are breaths where you adjust the posture of the neck so that the air comes in differently. There's breath holding. There's not breath holding. There's
mm.
everything, and they all have a different effect on the physiology.
Hey guys, I would like to take a moment to introduce you to our app, Yoga Plus. You will have access to an incredible selection of videos led by top instructors in yoga, fitness, nutrition, and so much more. Download our Yoga Plus app available on iOS and Android today.